I'm CJ with Starter Builds, and today I'm going to show you how to build this really cool DIY standing pantry on Starter Builds. Back again with another build with Starter Builds. Today we're going to be building a freestanding pantry. We're going to be building this in our basement. Our kitchen has a very limited spot. We're going to be using 3/4 inch plywood for this. Essentially we're going to have 2 cabinets on the side and the middle section here. So we will start to rip down some plywood. Alright, we got our plywood cut down here. We have our essential sides here at 15 inches wide and 72 inches tall. The next goal will be applying our shelf jig here, and we want to have adjustable shelves. So we have this Craig shelf pin jig. I'll have it linked down below, but we'll be using this to essentially put in shelf pins, it's a tough word to say, for our adjustable shelves. So we'll be doing that, and then these are going to be our insides here, so we will be using pocket holes to attach them like so, and then we'll build our face frames out, but that is where we're currently at right now, so let's get into it and stay tuned for the rest of the build. So after you have ripped down all of your plywood pieces to the correct width and length, you're going to be going in and putting in pocket holes. We are doing adjustable shelves, so we use the Craig shelf jig to create those, but essentially you'll have your pocket holes at the top here and your pocket holes for the front side to attach the face frame. So once you've done this one time, you need to replicate this across your other sides here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Again, we're just using the Craig pocket jig here, so stay tuned for the rest of the build. We're going to get these pocket holes in, and then we'll start to put in our shelves over there and build our face frame. Alright, we now have our face frame. We got all of our pocket holes drilled. We'll be attaching this with wood glue and pocket holes, 1 1/4 pocket holes. So 2 on each ends of the 1x3s at the top. We're going to have 4 here. So we're going to assemble this now. Alright, so we got one of the face frames on. That's what it should look like. And in the back here, we just attached the pocket holes all the way down. Next, we're going to start building some of these doors. The internal door there. Go from there. Alright, so for the face frame for this built-in pantry, we're going to be doing a 1x3 at the top, 1x3 at the sides, and a 1x4 on the bottom. We're going to be attaching this with pocket holes for this section, and then pocket holes to the actual carcass of the pantry build. So let's go ahead and get the pocket holes in here, and then we will get that attached with glue as well as pocket holes, so stay tuned for that. Two of these identical cabinet carcasses. Again, we opted for the adjustable shelves on each one, as well as we have the face frames attached with pocket holes and glue. So far these are really sturdy and surprisingly not too heavy. The next part is going to be building out the doors here. So we are going to be using 1/2-inch plywood for that, as well as some backer board for the kind of design. Again, this is up to your discretion on how you want to go about doing the design. So just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek here, we have our backer board. This is relatively inexpensive, around maybe 13 bucks. However, if anyone has shopped for plywood lately, plywood is relatively expensive. So for this 1/2-inch plywood, I think it was about 45 bucks. So I'm going to get out the track saw, rip this down. Again, if you don't have a track saw, you could just use a straight edge and your circular saw. That's how I started, or you could do it on the table saw. So we're gonna get some measurements on these doors here. We'll rip these down and we'll start to build that. All right, after a couple rips with the track saw as well as a table saw, we got our door dialed in. It's not perfect, but we'll take it. We're going to start to use some of the bender board to put out a design on there, and then we will be able to attach the hardware for it, and we'll get that one mocked up too as well. So stay tuned. We got more 1/2-inch plywood to rip down. We have our cabinet carcasses built. We have our front doors in place. Now we're going to be using some of this backer board to create a kind of cool, unique design on there. So we'll rip that down on the track saw, and then we'll get it glued on and pinned down with some brad nails. So let's get down to that section of the build. Created a little 3-inch template that I'm going to use. This will be probably used for the top and the bottom. Marked on my line. We're going to rip this out. This is going to be for the sides, and then this section will be for going across, up and down, all that fun stuff. So let's get out the track saw again. You can use a circular saw if you don't have a fancy track saw. Luckily I picked one up on Facebook Marketplace, so if you're ever looking for pretty solid tools, definitely recommend Facebook Marketplace. When I first started, that's where I got a lot of my tools from, and then I've just slowly built up over time. So let's rip this down and let's start to build out the design. Alright, so we have our cabinet carcasses built, we have our front doors built. The next thing we're going to be doing is attaching, painting, sanding and painting, but we'll be working on the inside of the shelves and then attaching the hardware. For the paint, we're going to be using like a dark charcoal gray. So I'm going to start working on sanding and kind of mocking everything up. We'll start to paint. I don't know if I'm going to be able to paint today. It's pretty windy, so stay tuned. Alright, it's time to build some of the adjustable shelves. We're going to be doing this out of 3/4 ply. My recommendation is make a template. We have a full sheet of plywood here. I still have to build the middle kind of cabinet carcass, so hopefully we can get another 5 to 6 shelves out of this and build the middle cabinet carcass out of that. So I'm going to use this as my template. Rip this down with the circular saw, track saw, whatever you have. So let's get down to breaking down the sheet of plywood. Alright, into the workshop we go. We are going to be working on the middle cabinet here that will be going in between there. We have our shelves cut, we got our doors set, we got this sheet and that sheet and some backer board of plywood left to build the middle section here. So let's rip this down and let's start assembling. We're using pocket holes and glue, just like we did on the pantry carcasses. So stay tuned. Alright, just to give you a little idea of what we're doing here, I bought a 1 by 10, actually 1 by 12 by 8 foot board. I ripped it down. We're building the face frame here, and I basically ripped down that board into one 1 by 4 that'll run across the bottom. We'll have 1 by 3s going up the sides and across. We're going to attach it with wood glue. We're basically going to build the frame here and then attach it with these inner pocket holes here. And then I also bought some edge glue panels. Again, you can make these yourself, but just for time and essentially trying to save my time in the long run, I wanted to get those. We'll put this on top and then we'll be able to start officially painting this. So stay tuned. We're going to mock this face frame up here and then we'll start working on the rest of the project. After a bunch of trial and error, we have our cabinet doors here. I'm going to rip some bender board down to give it this matching look here. So we're going to rip down some strips on the table saw. This actually taught me a lot, trial and error. It's a little bit harder than I thought, but I'm glad I tried it. So stay tuned. We're going to rip this down, like I said, get that on there, and then we'll be ready to paint. Alright, we got everything painted and ready to dry. Stay tuned. We're going to get this assembled in the basement. Alright, so we have moved to the basement. This will actually be going along this wall over here. Having a little bit of trouble getting things somewhat lined up. I know you're supposed to use maybe like 1/2 inch or 1/8 of an inch spacers at the bottom, but the way I cut the doors, they're not lining up correctly. So if you have comments or suggestions, leave them below on how to properly install doors. But I did pick up, again, these hinges here. So we got these hinges. We're going to install these next, and then we have the door pulls. So I'm going to get working on that, and this is a great kind of learning process. So let's attach the hardware, get it into place, and we'll be good to go.